against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin. You're against freedom.
Good morning, everybody. We are back. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. What a show we got for you guys today. These are my favorite shows. I tell you guys constantly when we talk about the separation of money and state on Simply Bitcoin, that part of our job is just exposing the media, exposing the politicians for what they are. We bring the receipts every single day. And today is one of those days. Yesterday, we were kind of speculating on what's going on behind the scenes in this Elizabeth Warren anti-Bitcoin ban, effectively banning self-custody in the United States. And we were hearing some rumors that maybe, just maybe, the banks were behind this. We've been saying for a while, we've been hearing the grumblings behind the scenes that Elizabeth Warren is playing cover for the big banks, which is, a huge pivot from where she got elected from where she originally started her platform from. And now we have it coming out of the horse's mouth. Exactly that. Bitcoin's incentives exposing all. It's just so beautiful to be a part of Bitcoin, the truth machine of Bitcoin. We had Roger Marshal testifying. I really do think this is one of those Freudian slips. And maybe he was saying this. Maybe he thought he was saying something that was hard hitting. But he essentially said that the National Bank Association helped him and Elizabeth Warren write this anti-Bitcoin bill. And if this isn't the smoking gun that banks are absolutely terrified of what's going on with Bitcoin, that they're not actively trying to stop and hamper Bitcoin, I don't know what is. And again, I've been saying this since this news story broke, that I just absolutely love it when first politicians come out and say things like this. It just goes to show that they're not naive. They know exactly what's going on. But then again, when the real criminals call us Bitcoiners criminals, I just know we're on the right track. It just makes me feel so good just being acknowledged and being seen that, yes, we are the ones that are right here. It's been a long, long bear market. And I'm just so glad to see politicians come out and be absolutely terrified of Bitcoin, of the separation of money and state, because we say it all the time. They get their power from the money printer. And once you understand Bitcoin fundamentals, you understand that you're going to minimize that power. And until they run around terrified, we aren't doing our jobs, guys. So I get so fired up on moments like this when we can show that the peaceful Bitcoin revolution is happening in real time, that we're not just sniffing our own farts, that we are actually on the right track, and that we have the banks scared out there. Remember last week, Elizabeth Warren was testifying with Jamie Dimon. Well, I got that video for you guys again. They want to ban Bitcoin. Obviously, they can only ban themselves from Bitcoin. You can't stop Bitcoin. It's a feature, not a bug. And again, guys, we are American centric, and it really is painful to see America fight freedom money, especially when the meme of America is land of the brave, home of the free. And here we are. It seems like the sovereign individual just continues to play out. Living in America, considering we have the world reserve currency, may become a detriment to all of us freedom fighting people. But I'm not giving up yet. I think we can overcome this. I think the incentives of Bitcoin are pure, and I think all the politicians will eventually have to bend the knee, because Bitcoin's incentives will overcome the totalitarian dystopia that we are finding ourselves in. And on that note, I also have a video that I'm going to tee up in the numbers for you guys. And it's Sailor on Bloomberg, essentially saying what we've been saying on Simply Bitcoin for months now, that we are heading into what might be an extremely epic bull run. All the factors are aligning. We're having the halving about to play out. We have institutions coming in. We have Wall Street starting to get incentivized about Bitcoin. They're starting to get a little greedy. And the reason... Nico's telling me my mic. One second. Restream's been acting up on me. Here we go. The incentives of Bitcoin are aligning. And this is why you're seeing Elizabeth Warren, the bankers, Jamie Dimon, Christine Lagarde. This is why they are coming out against Bitcoin, is because they realize, hey, Wall Street wants a chunk of Bitcoin. They want a piece of the action. And if they can, they're going to try to corral all of the liquidity into these ETFs, it's not a coincidence that all this is happening at the same time. We have BlackRock endorsing a spot Bitcoin ETF. We have Elizabeth Warren coming out against Bitcoin. On the one hand, Wall Street wants to get some price action to Bitcoin. On the other hand, we have the politicians running around absolutely terrified. It's such a beautiful time to be a Bitcoiner. Anyways, we have a very cool guest for you guys today. Jaime, he is a Bitcoin contributor. He's I guess a journalist covering El Salvador adoption. He is El Salvadorian. So we're going to talk about what's going on in El Salvador, what he's seen happen, but also connect this into what's happening in Argentina. Because we all know, Milei came out. He's been saying some things that a lot of us Bitcoiners are enjoying, but also maybe we're being a little too quick to judge. Maybe we're being a little too hopeful. I think we're gonna devour this today. Anyways, Jaime, I'm so glad to have you. We've hung out in spaces a lot. I even thought you've been on the show just because we talk so much in spaces and DMs. But how you doing this morning? Good to have you.
Thanks, Opti. You're way better looking in person than on video. So
you're not the only one to say this.
Spaces, how about that?
Yeah. I have a face for radio on camera, but off camera, they're like, whoa, what are you doing? Why do you, what? Anyways, I'll work on the camera. I'll work on my optics. Anyways, we're not alone here.
It's all good. It's all good. Thanks for having me, man. I'm just going to hang out on my lunch hour with you. And, we're just going to riff off all the things that are going on in Bitcoin, no shortage of them for sure. So, wherever you want to start off with, man, I'm good.
Let's go. Yeah, man. We have a jam-packed show today, and couldn't have a better guest considering that we are talking about politicians fighting Bitcoin, and you've been on the ground showing what happens in a country when they embrace Bitcoin and on the verge of maybe another country embracing Bitcoin. But we'll get all into that in the culture. Before I move on, we got the famous, illustrious Sophie with us today, filling in for Nico. Actually, filling in for me, and I'm filling in for Nico. Anyways, Sophie, how you doing today? Good to have you.
Good afternoon, good morning to those of you in Central and Pacific time. I'm doing good, guys. It's getting harder to breathe, but it's not just because of everything that's happening with Bitcoin and with Liz Warren, the tyrant who's trying to stop Bitcoin, but it's okay. Honey Badger don't care. I'm ready to start the show. I'm excited to be here. Let's do this.
Let's go. Well, Nico has you working, even though he's got you working double time. But hey, we're not going to get into any child labor laws here or whatever is going on over there. Anyways, guys, let's get into the show because we have a jam-packed show for you guys, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this one.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed.
All right, guys, we made it easy. Scan the QR code. Make sure your seed phrase is not on a piece of paper in your sock drawer like everyone else. That's the first step, guys. Is your seed phrase in your sock drawer? Well, get it on titanium. Anyways, the chat, you guys are killing me already. I am downright giddy right now. This is the stuff that gets me so excited when we can fully expose the hypocrisy of politicians and bankers. I absolutely love this stuff. All right, anyways, we'll get into that later. Of course, we're over here on Clark Moody's dashboard, and we're starting with the block height. I know Nico, we starts with the price, but to me, the most important thing is the block height. TikTok next block. It's almost like Bitcoin works exactly as designed. It's amazing. It's almost like Satoshi was prophetic here. Anyways, we're at block height of 822,115. The current Bitcoin price is 43,930. It kissed 44K this morning, I believe, if I saw the tweets correctly. Anyways, the sats per dollar, how much your Bitcoin is worth in fiat dollars, or rather, how much Bitcoin you can buy for a single dollar is 2,277 sats per dollar, or for the bits maxis in the max, 227 bits. And the total percentage of Bitcoin that will ever be issued. I cannot emphasize this enough, guys. Most Bitcoin is already circulating. There will only ever be 21 million. We're all going to be scrambling for the last, million or so Bitcoin. The total percentage of Bitcoin that will ever be issued is 93.21%. The market cap in fiat terms is $859.6 billion. We're not even at $1 trillion market cap, guys, and everyone's out there bearish. It couldn't be me, can't relate. Anyways, the realized monetary inflation, taking fiat currencies to school, is currently at 1.75%, and that will go down in April. And the Bitcoin versus gold market cap, you can see it's slowly but surely inching up as the Bitcoin price goes up, as more people adopt Bitcoin. We are currently at 6.27% of the gold market cap. As Nico's been saying lately, I can't wait till this is at like 100, 200%, and going further than that, because Bitcoin will overcome the gold market cap. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And then the total public Lightning capacity is currently at 4,999.48 BTC. The hash rate the last 90 days, the average, the guesstimate is 462.2 exahashes. And the pending fees, all right, this is getting crazy, guys. It's at 43.41 BTC. I think over the weekend it was at like 30 something. It's getting crazy out there. I don't know what's going on. This ordinals, inscriptions, Bitcoin stamps, it's getting crazy. Hopefully we get a law in the mempools so that we can all consolidate our UTXOs so that people can actually transact in Bitcoin. Anyways, you guys heard me rant about this during the week. And the blocks are halving 17,885, and the halving estimate, at least according to today, we're not hitting the meme date. It's roughly going to be April 19th, 2024, at least based on today's numbers. Anyways, let's get into this video. And the reason I wanted to start with this video, of course, I can always start in different directions, but I think this is a great way to tee up what we're seeing coming from Elizabeth Warren. And you can see here, Chad Saylor, Giga Chad Saylor, is just constantly making the rounds. He's constantly on corporate press, basically saying what we say on Simply Bitcoin every single day. But of course, in his rocket scientist way, he's able to elaborate on what we're saying and say it to the public audience out there, the people that still watch Bloomberg. And he's basically saying what we're saying, what I've been saying personally, that going into next year, going into the halving, that 2024 might just be one of the most epic bull runs we've seen yet. I know we're all being very conservative. We're all kind of terrified. We have PTSD about making price predictions, but everything I'm seeing is just kind of telling me that everyone is bearish out there, and you guys are all afraid of what's actually going to happen. I've been saying this constantly. We're having institutional adoption like the BlackRocks of the world starting to get interest in Bitcoin, which means they're going to educate their customers, which means corporate press is going to constantly be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to have the halving a lineup at the same time. We're going to have the election cycles all happen at the same time. And we have I forget what the numbers is, but like 70% of all Bitcoin being hodled long-term. Like there is not that much Bitcoin on the exchanges. And we know what happens when number goes up. It gets absolutely frothy. Well, look, don't take my word for it. Maybe take Giga Chad Saylor's word for it. He's saying exactly what I'm saying. Just, he's a little more eloquent. He can talk a little better than me. But guys, remember the signal. Everything is going according to plan. Everything is perfect. Everything is good for Bitcoin. And again, the Elizabeth Warrens of the world attacking Bitcoin, it's just more PR. They're the best marketers of Bitcoin we could ever have. So it's such a perfect, I'm trying not to say perfect storm because that sounds kind of negative. It's just a perfect alignment of everything. It's like perfect tinder for a very great explosion in price. It's going to be so beautiful. Anyways, let's hear Saylor talk about this. And then, of course, I'm going to kind of reel this into what we're going to talk about with Elizabeth Warren. And you can see why they are so terrified. So let's play this, guys.
Me is Michael Saylor. He is co-founder and executive chair of MicroStrategy. Of course, MicroStrategy, often seen as a Bitcoin proxy, it holds a lot of it on its balance sheet. Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, there has been so much anticipation and frankly, a lot built in, I think, to the price of Bitcoin of this idea that spot ETFs are finally going to come. What's the next catalyst for Bitcoin if and when that happens? How much further can it be pushed upward?
Well, I think you can't really underestimate the significance of the spot ETFs. It's not unreasonable to suggest that this may be the biggest development on Wall Street in 30 years. I mean, the last thing that was this consequential was the creation of the S&P index and the ability to invest in all 500 S&P companies via one trade at the same time. So this is very eagerly anticipated, but most of the money in the Bitcoin market right now is the hodlers and the traditional crypto investors. Mainstream investors, mainstream retail, mainstream institutions have not had a high bandwidth compliant channel to invest in this asset class until these spot ETFs. So I think in January, the approval of the spot ETFs is going to be a major catalyst. It's going to definitely drive a demand shock. And then that will be followed in April with a supply shock because there are about 900 Bitcoin a day available for sale by natural sellers, the miners. And that number is going to be cut to 450 Bitcoin a day in April. So it's a pretty big deal.
And that puts Bitcoin where a year from now?
Higher.
How much?
You know, we could probably keep a bunch of economists and modelers working all day long to calculate the supply, demand, and price elasticity of this. I don't think we've ever seen, you know, a 2 to 10x increase in demand combined with a halving and supply in a scarce, desirable asset that people want to hold for a long period of time. So I think we're expecting 2024 is going to be a major bull run for the asset class. We just don't know how far the asset's going to run at this point.
Let's go. Oh, man. I love, you know, shouts out to Saylor. Everyone can say what they want about Saylor, but I love when he goes on corporate press and that they're trying to press him on what's the price predictions. And of course, we try to be conservative. We try not to give, what's the meme? You know, we can give you a price target, but we can't tell you when. And she's like, all right, so like, how high is this going? He's like, it's going higher. Like, you know, wait, hold on. I have it in meme form for you. We have a new iteration of it, but this is basically what he's saying, guys.
It's going up forever, Laura.
And everyone is like, well, give me a price target so I can trade this. He's like, no, literally just buy it and hold it like everyone else, and you're going to be okay. Anyways, back to a kind of a theme I've been sharing and talking about on the show is the Bitcoin signal is going mainstream. You know, at the beginning of the year, we were kind of talking about like, oh, maybe Bitcoin is crossing the Rubicon into mainstream consciousness. It's becoming extremely obvious to me that every single person on planet Earth, especially on corporate press, on Wall Street, any person that is worth their financial salt is going to have an opinion on Bitcoin. So moving forward, as the price starts to go up, as Bitcoin starts to hit these six-figure numbers, everyone will have an opinion, and you just love to see it. And then, of course, like I keep hearing yellow in my head, you know, everything's macro. Yes, I know. And even shout out to the Bugle. They keep trolling us because we're constantly talking about the Bitcoin ETF. Guys, this is where we are in the news cycle. We have to constantly cover this because this is the news right now. And I know, yes, Bitcoin ETF this, Bitcoin ETF that. It's just where we are right now. Bitcoin is maturing. But I love the comparison that Saylor used about Bitcoin getting a spot Bitcoin ETF might be the biggest development on Wall Street since the S&P 500. Since you can make one trade in a basket of stocks, you're seeing that. Look, I've said this in the past. It's not that Larry Fink or the BlackRocks of the world, it's not that they like Bitcoin. They want to make money. They're hearing their customers tell them, hey, we want exposure to Bitcoin. And now the loopholes, the obstacles are getting cut. The red tape's starting to get cut. And people are going to have a way to get exposure to Bitcoin. Obviously, this is baby steps because here at Simply Bitcoin, we tell you guys to constantly take Bitcoin into custody. Do not buy a spot Bitcoin ETF. It's not real Bitcoin. So the point remains the same. There is going to be a mountain of capital coming into Bitcoin. Of course, we're not just number go up advocates here. We are freedom and sovereignty advocates. We want you guys to own your own money because that's the whole point of Bitcoin. And then the way I'm going to link this into Elizabeth Warren in the next segment is what Saylor said. Wall Street is looking for exposure. And the fact that we're seeing Elizabeth Warren, Jamie Dimon all come out and be like, oh man, how can we stop this? Because people want it and they know it's unstoppable. And the more people get on Bitcoin, the more this becomes even more unstoppable. Hence why you're seeing that knee-jerk reaction from Elizabeth Warrens of the world. It's because they're absolutely terrified. The banks know what's going on. The banks know that Bitcoin has called their number and their time is limited. And it's only a matter of time. It's 11th grade math before everyone wakes up to what is actually going on. Everyday people, average everyday people are realizing that the fiat system is working against them and they need to find an alternative. I think most people know the problem. I've been saying this constantly. I've been beating this drum. It's almost like everyone knows the problem. They just don't know what the solution is. So we know the solution is Bitcoin. And Saylor said, what's the price? I don't know. It's going to go higher. So you want to hold some, you want to have exposure. And of course, you want to take your Bitcoin into custody. Anyway, Jaime, what's your thoughts on this? And then we'll get Sophie's thoughts. I know Sophie's just going to get stupidly bullish with me. So Jaime, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think it's really funny that politicians still don't grasp what Bitcoin's all about, and they have all these talking points about hardware wallets and how it's dangerous. Like, really, if you can remember 12 seed words, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can censor you. Like, it's still yours to hold, and there isn't one thing that Warren can do about it. I guess it just goes to show you how much more awareness has to be done at that level. But at a certain level, I kind of don't want it to. I don't want those guys to have that level of awareness because they can pass laws all they want. It's really not going to matter. Like, as long as there's just no way they can regulate this. The other thing that I find funny is like how they get these guys, the bankers, to write the law, which they've always done that. It's just that it's more overt now and they're like more transparent about it, but they've always done that. And it just shows the incompetency of officials. Believe it or not, and I'm not alone on this one. I can't claim that I was like enlightened and have always been enlightened, but at some point in my life, and it's almost hard to say, I actually had some level of respect for Warren, because they, especially Democrats, they talk a good game about how they're rooting for the little guy. They're there on their side, and they get elected and they completely forget about them. And it's like this everywhere. It's like this in the US, it's like this in Canada where I live, and it used to be like that in El Salvador where I'm from. And I think we still got a long ways, but man, are they wrong? And just to finish off, paper Bitcoin, don't do it, guys. I mean, it's a good ad, I'll say that. Like the fella, the most interesting man in the world, immediately put that ad over the top. Like, kudos, great creative. And what I love about it even more is that it's become a meme. Like, I saw Cedar actually make their own version of it, and people are making their own. Like, Frankie was like, Bitcoin, like, it's just great. So, like, more fodder for the memers. So love it. I'm gonna pass it off to you before I ramble on, and because I get going and I don't stop.
Well, we'll give you time to ramble, but yeah, I totally agree, and that's one of the things I really like to angle this at is like, look, everyone knows we're Simply Bitcoin. We're always going to angle this back to Bitcoin. But like you said, Jaime, like it's not necessarily about Bitcoin, the product. It's about what Bitcoin does for you, the individual. And this is the only way that the average person can actually, you know, occupy Wall Street, to opt out of this madness, to live a better life. Because again, we're using Sailor as an example here. Everyone saving in fiat is holding melting ice cubes. And it just seems like no one understands the basic mechanics of what's going on here. Like, you are getting poorer, people, and you need to find a way to protect yourself, because as we're going to show, these people do not care about you. It's all about getting reelected. And like you said, you know, they run on these platforms about, oh, I'm here for the little man. And then they get in the office and, you know, someone taps on their shoulder and starts to pay their bills. And then their narrative switches. And then they continue to come out here and are like, oh, we're here to help you. Trust us, guys. You remember who I was. And we're just constantly bringing the receipts. Like, no, they're not here to help you at all. This is why Bitcoin was created. You need to protect yourself. It's as simple as that. You want to live a good life, you need to own some Bitcoin. Anyway, Sophie, jump in. What's your thoughts on all this?
One of the most interesting things that I think Satoshi did when developing Bitcoin is figuring out the fundamental flaw of fiat, being that it's greed, power, control, corruption. And he took that human flaw and he essentially embedded it into Bitcoin so that the price goes up forever. And so that at some point, as Sailor mentioned in that video, people buy in. Why? Because they care about the fear of missing out more than they care about actually saving themselves from the fiat corruption that is affecting their daily lives. So I thought it was really funny in that video how he's like, I mean, it's going to get higher. And the girl's like, how much? It doesn't matter how much, it's going up forever, Laura. The whole point here is more than the number go up, which, by the way, these huge corporations are very late to the game, or we're just very early. The whole point of it is more than the number go up is that it's going to save us from tyrants like Lion Liz. I know you guys like to call her Lizzie Pie, but I like to call her Lion Liz because she's literally lied about everything since the moment she came into power. She claims to care about the little man. She doesn't. She claims to care about public welfare. She doesn't. If she did, she wouldn't be fighting this hard against the hardest money that has ever existed. And like, you know, I love that Bitcoin calls out people's greed and uses that to save themselves. I think it's actually a great phenomenon that we should all explore.
You know, as much as I love all of Bitcoin's fundamentals, you know, censorship resistant and audible supply, FU money, as we like to say, one of my favorite aspects of this is just exposing people. It's so simple. Like, if you draw a line in the sand, if there, wait, I have it here. I almost forgot about this one.
You're against Bitcoin. You're against freedom.
It's such a simple line in the sand. They can say all they want about, you know, they can do all the lip service they want about, I'm here for the little guy. I'm here for you. I want you to thrive and prosper. But then if you ask them about Bitcoin and they're against Bitcoin, you're just like, oh, okay. I know where you stand. It's as simple as this. You know, I don't really like the one issue voter meme. But it's almost becoming like, hey, if they're against Bitcoin, then you know for a fact that they are not for your interests. And it's just going to become even more and more clear moving forward. Anyways, let's get into this whole thing. So, did you want to jump in? I saw you.
I mean, they're either lying or they're stupid. They're either lying or they don't know what they're talking about. That's the thing. They're not stupid. They know exactly how this works. And they know that this is a huge threat to their power. And that's why they're trying to stop it. And that's why you have to take self-custody.
Agreed. Jaime, you want to jump in?
No, I mean, like, it's both. It's a bit of a paradox, actually, because, like, it's like, I don't think that they know what they're talking about, but at the same time, like, some people know what they're talking about, and it's like, yeah, we'll have these useful idiots to do all of this, right? But, you know, it's something that you said earlier, Opti, it's like, the incentives, like the 4-year election cycle, they're not a long time preference. It's a short span of time in which they need to gain votes and do whatever to get reelected again. It's high time preference. And I think that the incentives around politics are all wrong. They seek those donations, they seek those votes, and they have a 4-year window. So they can only promise you and produce things that are in a 4-year cycle, and also that are going to confuse you, really. And for the most part, they really can't deliver on anything that's meaningful for the average person. And so as long as they keep on doing that, pounding on Bitcoin and the thing is too, is they put Bitcoin with crypto. It's you'll hear crypto, and again, it's designed to confuse people, because the average normie just does not know the difference, right? And when you don't know the difference, then Bitcoin is crypto, and then they can have these because at some point I was actually they're right, crypto sucks. It's absolutely, I'm on board, but they're including Bitcoin in all of that, and that's what's fundamentally wrong, right? So but yeah, the incentives are all wrong around the political election cycle, and that's how they're going to try to get everybody, get them confused and advance their points and their crappy laws.
Yeah, 100%. Hi, mate. You said something that I say constantly. It's these people would not be able to say what they're saying right now if they weren't thinking that they could continue to gaslight the population out there, because no one understands what's going on with Bitcoin except for a small fraction of Bitcoiners. And the average person has a certain idea. They had a headline in mind from the past. They heard about Bitcoin. They thought Bitcoin is dying. And then the politicians come out and they just reinforce exactly what they think they know about Bitcoin. And as long as that continues to work, they'll continue to say all kinds of crazy stuff about Bitcoin. This is just the beginning of this. So just buckle down. Be prepared for this. It's a marathon, not a sprint, guys. We're in this for the long run. So it's only going to get crazier before it gets better. Anyways, before I move on, guys, shouts out to the boys over at the Bitcoin conference. We're going to take over Nashville this year, July 25th to 27th. Tickets are, I guess, going to increase in a couple of days. You guys constantly tell me the same thing. The prices are too expensive. I should just stack Bitcoin. Obviously, always stack Bitcoin. But if you want to hang out with us in Nashville, if you want to hang out with like-minded individuals, if you want to stop being the lone crazy person in your neighborhood and realize that there's other people like you, come to Nashville. We are going to take over July 25th to 27th of next year, and you can get a discount today. This is the cheapest the prices will be moving forward. I know you're going to FOMO into the conference. Use the promo code SIMPLY, and you can get a discount. But enough of that. Let's fully devour Elizabeth Warren's today in this anti-Bitcoin ban.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
Whoa, what's going on here? Hold on 1 second. You guys hear that?
Yeah.
All right.
What is that?
I have no idea. Hold on. Where is this audio coming from? Hold on. I don't know what's going on over here. I have some crazy audio going on right now. That's crazy. All right. There we go. Wait. Is it me?
It might be me.
Yeah.
Did I
think
hit something?
Yeah, okay, it was Sophie. All right, you got me all shook. I'm like, where is this coming? All right, anyways, guys, minus the technical difficulties.
Everybody's crazy checking their levels.
Yeah,
Which
we're like, wait, what's
channel
going
is
on
it?
here? Okay, well, thank you, Sophie. Quit hitting the soundboard. Anyways, guys, of course, you know, I've been giving Nico some crap. Don't think about it. Hit the QR code, get yourself a hardware wallet, and you know, make sure that your Bitcoin is secure. Anyways, I wanted to start this one with a meme. You guys have been yelling at me about memes, and I brought this on last week, and I thought this was just like the perfect way to start this whole fiasco. You know, we talked about this yesterday. We talked about this on Monday. We've been talking about it since this bill initially hit our desk. You know, Elizabeth Warren came out. She wants to essentially ban self-custody in Bitcoin, and it's not like, it's so obvious why she's doing this. You know, it's not a coincidence that we get all this endorsements from the BlackRocks of the world about a spot Bitcoin ETF. And then in the same breath, we have this de facto ban of Bitcoin custody, because, you know, it's not so much about them not understanding what's going on. It's about them trying to stop Bitcoin. And one of my good friends, Skeef, he jokingly and trollingly on Twitter is always like, "What guys? What are we freaking out about? Like, why are we stopping Elizabeth Warren from accelerating Bitcoin adoption? She is doing such a great job. Let her continue. Let her cook, boys." And I kind of agree, even though I realize that there is a lot that could go wrong if this actually passes. And we played a video yesterday about it was on What Bitcoin Did with Peter McCormick, and it was basically saying that Roger Marshal, you know, GOP frontman, he and Elizabeth Warren were the ones that started this bill. And there was a rumor going around that there was video of him essentially with a Freudian slip saying that, like, oh yeah, we talked to the American Bankers Association and we wrote up this bill to essentially stop Bitcoin. And the amount of projection in this bill, the amount of just like, we're trying to maintain our regulatory moat, it's asinine, it's hilarious. But this just goes into what I always say, man. When these criminals, when the people you're trying to protect yourself from are the ones calling you criminals, what do they call us? You know, shadowy supercoders. We're illiterate 80 IQ Bitcoiners. We're financial terrorists. We're money launderers. We're literally all the worst things you can call in the world to try to stop this Bitcoin thing, and they cannot stop it. And then we have what I would say is the smoking gun coming out, that it's becoming very obvious that the banks are absolutely terrified of Bitcoin, because it even says it in the white paper, and I'm going to have it here. You know, the whole point of Bitcoin is to eliminate the trusted third parties. Well, guess who that is? It's the banks. If people aren't holding their money in a bank, then the whole banking business model goes up in smoke, and they know this. And we just talked about it in the numbers. Technically, I think Jaime's right that the politicians and the bankers, for the most part, 99% of the time, technically, they don't know how Bitcoin works. They're just spewing out the mouth. But theoretically, I think they fully understand what's at stake. And this is why you're seeing the Brad Shermans and the Elizabeth Warrens roll out and try to stop Bitcoin and say whatever they can to gaslight the individuals out there, the normie out there that doesn't know what's going on. And man, it's just absolutely disgusting. But here we go. On Simply Bitcoin, our main job is just to constantly roll out the lies, the hypocrisy, the BS that we're seeing from not only the corporate press, but from the politicians and from the bankers and anyone else that is against Bitcoin, because
You're against Bitcoin. You're against freedom.
well, here we go. From the horse's mouth himself, Roger Marshal. You can see here the Chamber of Digital Commerce tweeted this out yesterday. He said, who could be so brazen as to write legislation that would effectively ban, and I'm going to use Bitcoin because we all know it's Bitcoin and not crypto. And then we have Senator Roger Marshal, the GOP frontman of the Bitcoin ban bill, revealed that the American Bankers Association wrote it. Who would have saw this coming, guys? It's almost like Bitcoiners constantly say the same thing. It's that these people know what's going on. They just play dumb. They placate the average person out there that has no idea what's going on, and they continue to gaslight you. So let's hear it from his mouth, guys. This is the smoking gun as far as I'm concerned.
Senator Warren and I have authored the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act that represents a step in the right direction. Again, I think that this is a light touch. The first thing we did is we went to the American Bank Association and said, help us craft this. And I don't know if you saw Senator Warren's hearing with Jamie Dimon yesterday, but Mr. Dimon said basically, in his opinion, crypto is only a tool for criminals. And I think that, again, it's that light touch by the federal government as opposed to a heavy touch as well. That's about all I know about crypto.
Yeah, the meme there is so good though, at the very end. That's about all I know about Bitcoin. Anyways, let me touch on something before I play you this Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren video, just to refresh your memory. The first thing is something I've been saying for a while, is that any overt, like, full attack on Bitcoin, whether custody or Bitcoin mining in the States, it would be way too much PR for Bitcoin. So in his own words, he's saying exactly what we've been saying. They're trying to find roundabout ways to hamper or rather stop the adoption of Bitcoin because they know that the game is up. And the more people that save in Bitcoin, the more their hypocrisy gets exposed. And guys, like, do we have to hit the elephant on the room that the very people Bitcoin protects you from are the ones that are writing the anti-Bitcoin ban of custodying your Bitcoin? Like, you couldn't make this stuff up. This is the world we're living in. This is how lobbying groups works. This is how politics works everywhere. And I don't know if he was saying this like in a gloating manner, or it was just a Freudian slip and he didn't realize like what he said. But the fact that the American Banking Association wrote a bill to try to stop you from remembering 12 words in your brain is absolutely laughable. Not only is this not enforceable, but just the audacity and the projection from the bankers, it's absolutely hilarious. But anyways, let's remember what Jamie Dimon said with Elizabeth Warren last week, because I think there's even more projection coming from here, and we've been covering this constantly. But when you put these videos back to back, it just goes to show how ridiculous this whole charade is.
I've always been deeply opposed to crypto, Bitcoin, etc. You pointed out the only true use case for it is criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, and that is a use case because it is somewhat anonymous, not fully, and because you can move money instantaneously, and because it doesn't go through, as you mentioned, all these systems that have built up over many years, know your customers, sanctions, OFAC, they can get bypass all of that. If I was the government, I'd close it down.
Okay.
I've always been.
Oh man, you can see what the narrative is here, guys. Of course, we're all criminals. We're all money launderers. You know. Now, what was the new meme? We're traitors. It just goes to show when you're trying to protect your property from the thieves, from the looters, they're going to use their whole apparatus to paint you as the criminal, so that the average person doesn't know exactly what's going on. Okay, guys. Now, I just want to touch on a few things from this bill just to show how ridiculous this is, and just to show how prophetic Satoshi was in the white paper. Anyways, here we are on Elizabeth Warren's website here, and she's talking about the Anti-Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act, aka the basically banned Bitcoin Self-Custody Act. And there's just one portion that I wanted to read. It's just kind of to highlight what this act would do, and really to highlight how ridiculous this is and unenforceable it is. But again, technically, I would say they don't know how Bitcoin works. And in their own words, it shows that they don't know how Bitcoin works. But theoretically, they understand exactly what's at stake. And I think that's what we have to remember. It's not so much that they're naive. Yes, they're computer illiterates, but they know what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop the adoption of Bitcoin. Anyways, the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act would extend Bank Secrecy Act responsibilities, including KYC requirements, to digital asset wallet providers, miners, validators, and other network participants that may act to validate, secure, or facilitate digital asset transactions. First and foremost, this is completely unenforceable. Like, there's no way that my node is going to be able to KYC any one of you guys, yet it's either they fully don't understand the technicalities of Bitcoin, or they know that you don't, the average person, and they're just going to try to get a wholesale law passed to try to hamper Bitcoin adoption. And then again, the next one, which has been the meme of all year, address a major gap with respect to quote unquote unhosted digital wallets. Remember the meme I put up here of there was a hand and it had a leech on it, and that was a hosted digital wallet. And then there was a hand without the leech, and that's an unhosted digital wallet. We shouldn't even be using their doublespeak dystopian verbiage. But this is what they're using in this bill, which would allow individuals to bypass AML and sanctions check by directing FinCEN to finalize and implement its December 2020 proposed rules, which will require banks and money service businesses to verify customer and counterparty identities, keep records, and file reports in relation to certain digital assets transaction involving unhosted wallets or wallets hosted in non-BSA compliant jurisdiction. It's almost like, America or Elizabeth Warren and co. are trying to be the police of the world and trying to police what's going on with your Bitcoin software. It's almost like we could, maybe KYC everyone that is transacting on the net. No, you can't, even though they're trying. Anyways, we saw the backlash of this. We saw that FinCEN tried to propose new rules, and we saw banks, fiat banking partners off and on ramps of Bitcoin react to this. They're trying to strengthen the enforcement of the Bank Secrecy Act. They're trying to extend the Bank Secrecy Act. And of course, they're trying to mitigate illicit finance risk of digital asset ATMs. We've covered this. The only reason I want to touch on all that is because it really highlights what was written in the white paper. And this is my favorite portion. I've been saying this to you guys, I don't even know how many times this year on the show, but this is the very reason why Bitcoin was created, guys. It's in the white paper itself. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust. Again, instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party. Again, without the need for a trusted third party. Well, what is not all these banks but trusted third parties? They're terrified that Bitcoin disintermediates their moat, that it stops the money printer, that it literally not only exposes the game, but breaks the game. And then, just to end this on a high note, we saw Elizabeth Warren come out yesterday, and, she wrote wrote an article here. Warren accuses ex-defense leaders of stonewalling terror financing crackdown. In response to all of this stuff, she's basically saying that veterans out there that are pro-Bitcoin are what was it? What's the new meme? We're traitors to America. Anyways, the reason I brought this up is just to show the power that you guys have as individuals and just the power of the community note. So Elizabeth Warren quote tweeted this Politico article, and she goes, "Crypto companies are spending millions building an army of former defense and law enforcement officials to lobby against new rules shutting down crypto finance terrorism. This revolving door boosts the crypto industry but endangers our national security." And you just love to see the community notes on Twitter. Cryptocurrency is objectively less than 1% of all monetary illicit activity. There's also nothing supporting the claim that it could threaten national security. Cash is untraceable. Blockchains are public ledgers. It's almost like the real criminals use Bitcoin. Anyways, I want to touch on a quote here in the Politico article because, we're talking about Bitcoin here. And she is, she's in the Senate. She's in DC where the real revolving door happens. And I just love exposing the hypocrisy coming out of the politicians and the bankers' mouths. So she's quoted in Politico, and she goes, "This abuse of the revolving door is appalling, revealing that the crypto industry is spending millions to give itself a veneer of legitimacy while fighting tooth and nail to stonewall common sense rules designed to restrict the use of crypto for terror financing, rules that could cut into crypto company profits. It also reveals significant gaps in the national ethics laws." Oh my goodness. Absolutely incredible. And then one last thing. Shouts out to Pierre Rochard, just the absolute GOAT. She's been getting ratioed on Twitter. I really wonder whether Elizabeth Warren listens to any of the backlash, or does she just take the high road and she's like, these idiots don't know what they're talking about. Anyways, Elizabeth Warren tweeted this yesterday. She goes, "No one should have to wonder whether a Supreme Court justice is putting the interests of their billionaire benefactors ahead of the rule of law." And then, of course, Pierre Rochard with the ratio. "No one should have to wonder whether a senator is putting the interest of big banks ahead of the Bill of Rights." Yes, Senator Elizabeth Warren, I'm looking at you. Oh my goodness. It's so awesome when you have these powers as just an average individual, the power of truth, to go out here, to have a show like this, to just constantly expose their hypocrisy. And XX, I see you in the chat. You said, why are we worrying about this stuff? The reason we constantly come on here and talk about this is so that we can expose the hypocrisy, because the average people still believe these headlines. The average people still believe these narratives. And until you start to sow the seeds of doubts in their brains that, hey, maybe they don't have your best interest in mind, they're going to just follow along with the party line. So we're here to try to expose the hypocrisy so people know why we do what we do. We simply want to hold something that these people cannot steal from us, so that we don't just get poorer following this ridiculous ludicrousy coming out of Washington, D.C. The clown world is accelerating. And this is the stuff, it just gets me so giddy. I've been saying for a while, Brad Sherman's my favorite politician, but I think now Elizabeth Warren, might be my favorite politician, because she's just thoroughly exposed the game. She is bought and paid for by the big banks. She's playing cover for the big banks. The big banks are terrified of Bitcoin because it stops the regulatory moat. I just love this. Anyways, I've been ranting way too long. Jaime, what's your thoughts on this? I see you as giddy as I am. And hold on, we're going to give Sophie the floor too, and she's going to get absolutely toxic. So let's go with Jaime first, and then we'll go with Sophie.
No, I mean, all I want to say is that like BTC Sessions actually posted a comment underneath Elizabeth Warren's post, and he actually just ratioed her. He's got on his post more views than her original view, and all he did was share and highlight a bit of a paragraph in her profile on her website, and it says, Elizabeth has spent her career fighting for American families, and this is the party highlights, holding big banks accountable. Like like the irony can't get any bigger on that one, because how can you hold big banks accountable when they're actually writing your bills? I mean, it's just like we live in a simulation right now, or she's just completely lost the plot. Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, it's a comedy. Like, this can't be possible that this is real right now, but it is. I just wanted to highlight that one piece because it really sums it up for me. I mean, like, we really can't take this lady serious at this point.
Yeah, 100%. And what I try to do a lot of times, and I know all of us Bitcoiners, we're so outside the Overton window. And Jaime, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, guys, we're trying to reach the average person and try to be like, hey, I see where you're coming from, though try to see it from our light. And I think it's becoming clear. Like, I know people are still voting for Elizabeth Warren, but even in like DC, I think it's becoming clear that Elizabeth Warren is an extremist. And they're like, yo, hey, like, even this lady's too crazy for us. And, the federal government's been trying to ban Bitcoin mining. And like, they're kind of like, Lizzie, I don't even think we can do this.
Update. Just want to get one more thought in, and it's this. Like, democracy doesn't end after you vote. You, like, if her constituents see like the ridiculousness of this whole sham, they're able to write her. They're able to actually put campaigns against her and say, like, look, stop it, or we won't elect you. Or, like, she lives in a Democrat stronghold. That's where she runs. But at least make it clear to her that this is not going to be left unaccountable, and she's going to be held to account when these things happen. So, like, we have a responsibility to exercise democracy every day in whatever way we can. Like, for me, like, I get up here, and this is for me more fun, right? I have a regular job. I go and do my fiat mining, and on my spare time, that's when I do my democracy. I write. I share my opinions. I orange pilled my barber last night. So, like,
Let's
things
go.
like that, right? But people need to exercise democracy every day of their life, not just on election day. And that means that you're writing letters. You're actually writing letters to the editor, because that's the one thing that politicians hate, to be held to account on mediums, on traditional mediums like the printed paper. It may not be where we hang out, but a lot of our voters do do hang out there. And so if you call her to account on those mediums where she cares, where her traditional base of voters are, then that, like that's part of exercising democracy. So yeah, that's it. I'm more interested to hear from Sophie on this.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna let Sophie get the floor here. But Jaime, I think you said something very interesting, and this is one of the things I learned early on Twitter in particular is like sometimes the person, like sometimes the audience on Twitter is not necessarily the person you are arguing with. It's the people that are watching. And I think that's what we try to do here constantly. It's like, look, hey, we know that this stuff is insane and ludicrous, but there's people out there that don't understand where we're coming from. And they might just overhear something and be like, wait, maybe that is rational. Maybe these guys aren't just crazy. What are we? Financial terrorists, money launderers, shadowy supercutters. Anyways, let's give Sophie the floor because this one's going to be a good one. I think I already heard a little bit this morning. So Sophie, the floor is yours.
Man, the jokes write themselves because, like Jaime mentioned, Liz Warren initially started her campaign and her whole political career by being against the big banks, against corporations. And it's just so ironic how now she's like buddy with Jamie Dimon. And just like how the irony of the whole situation exists, the propaganda, or not the propaganda, but like the commercial for Bitcoin, this like why you should buy Bitcoin is writing itself too. If you notice in that video with Jamie Dimon, he's listing all of the reasons why Bitcoin is superior to fiat. It's like you can make instantaneous transactions. You can transact anonymously, although not fully anonymously. I feel like you could take every single thing that they say is wrong about Bitcoin and turn it into a commercial as to why you should buy Bitcoin, which, by the way, just hit 44,000. So that's a cause for celebration.
Let's go. Yeah, it's almost like everything Jamie was saying. We're like, hey, this is a feature, not a bug. Like, what are you talking about?
Wait, this is a good thing. What are you talking about? And they think that we're stupid enough to be like, oh yeah, you're right. Having self-custody, I'm not smart enough to have self-custody. That would be so inconvenient to my life. Why would I want self-custody? Why would I want number go up technology as the source of my hard money? You know what? You're right. I'm just going to keep getting screwed by fiat because it just feels so good to pay $200 for a week's worth of groceries and, live my life in continuous servitude to the corporation and to the big government.
Yeah, absolutely insane. This is where we are. Anyways, in the interest of time, I want to give Jaime the floor. So let's get into the culture today because I really think you guys are going to enjoy this conversation.
The Daily Culture.
Brought to you by SwanBitcoin.com. Swan is the best way to build your Bitcoin stack with automated Bitcoin savings plans and instant purchases, serving clients of any size from $10 to $10 million. We love Swan because they incentivize self-custody and dollar cost averaging. What are you waiting for? Visit SwanBitcoin.com today.
Let's go. All right, Jaime, as you mentioned, you are an El Salvadorian. You've been on the ground. You've been watching what's going on in El Salvador. You've been a constant journalist. You've been hitting me in the DMs, making sure that we're factually correct. So before we get into the topic that I know you wanted to talk about, the recent advancements of what's going on in Argentina, I think since you haven't been on the show, I just would love to start with what is your general thoughts of Bitcoin in El Salvador and what's going on in El Salvador. As someone that's family came there because, people always say, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And we're like, dude, we're just listening to people that are Salvadorians that are telling us they enjoy what's going on, that are seeing the improvement of the country. So let's just start there. And then we can parallel this into what possibly is going on in Argentina.
For sure. I mean, I've written numerous, I think I'm up to 12 articles on Bitcoin Magazine now on the topic of El Salvador. And one of the reasons why I started doing that was because I saw so many people just like inaccurately telling the story of El Salvador. either pro whatever was going on or against. And a lot of the times it was, maybe it was Salvadorians, but most of the time it wasn't. And I just felt that it was important to, like, uh get my perspective up there, a perspective that is closer to the ground, a perspective that, you know um that is shared by a lot of Salvadorans who are living outside of El Salvador, which is, we left as a result of two major events. One was the Civil War in the 70s and 80s, which was essentially a proxy war between the Soviet Union and the USA, the Cold War. And then the other one, when the peace agreements were signed between the two parties at war, was the influx of crime into the country, and a country that was trying to rebuild itself, but instead of rebuilding itself, actually ended up in worse shape. So so I think what has happened in El Salvador has been, over the last really 2 years, but it's been kind of like, I would say 7 years in the making, has been a transformation that, I'll be completely honest with everybody here, I don't think would have been possible in my lifetime. I thought maybe El Salvador would be a great country to visit, perhaps even live far into the future. It is a beautiful country. It is full of amazing people, but the way that it was unlivable for most Salvadorans who wanted to keep their family safe. And for a lot of them, the 7 million that already live there, they had to cope with a lot of pain, criminality, and just the day-to-day corruption, and just shitty situation that most people found themselves in. What has happened is that we got people that were tired of the situation, and they said, we either need to change it now or we'll forever regret this opportunity. And the opportunity came when not just Nayib Bukele, but a group of young leaders, and some of them old with experience, saw a window for doing things differently. And part of that meant marketing the country differently. It meant bringing in a new economic regime, which was based on freedom rather than oppression. And that's where Bitcoin is important. But it also meant you don't have any of these freedoms. You don't have individual freedoms, financial freedoms, if you don't secures people's well-being, just existing. And that's where the security comes in. And I saw so many people that I actually admire, like, just get it absolutely wrong. Especially human rights organizations. I remember being a young guy working for, and I won't name names, but like, what I thought were reputable human rights organizations, only to find out that they're the number one enablers of crime, not just in El Salvador, but all throughout Latin America and the developing world. And it became absolutely clear that that's what they do, and they're kind of like neo-economic hitmans. Um, when a lot of the security implementation policies started to happen in El Salvador. But essentially, what we see is that, although Bitcoin isn't the one thing that's moving it all, it is absolutely an essential thing that's moving it, the country in a very progressive way. And when I say progressive, I mean it in the literal term, not as a euphemism for, uber liberals. So it is moving in a progressive way where people are now able to start their own business and grow their own business and produce economic activity in the country because they're not afraid to be shaken down by one of these illicit organizations. Now, just to tie back to Elizabeth Warren and whatnot, these illicit organizations in El Salvador hate Bitcoin. they were all transacting and doing the shakedown in USD. So they don't like Bitcoin. They don't know how it works. They just rather shake people down. And you know what? You can extort people when you really, have no way to physically rip their money away from them. And so it's been good that way. So what we have here is, and that's when I basically started writing and telling this story. And I've been to El Salvador and on the ground for uh, extended periods of time, not as a Bitcoiner, but just a regular Salvadorian observing, just being a dude there, just seeing how things are developing, and it's quite remarkable, I would say. Um, and a lot of people use different measures for what successful adoption looks like, but I would say that the awareness is 100%. And I think Stacy and Max have said this before. Awareness is 100% in El Salvador. You can't go anywhere and ask a Salvadorian about Bitcoin and they don't know about it. They absolutely know about it. In fact, when I was there last time, I forgot my wallet and I didn't have any cash, but I did have my phone, and I had bought some fruit. And uh, I told the lady, "I'm sorry, I don't have any cash, but I do have some Bitcoin. Will you accept it?" And she's like, "Oh no, I won't." She said. I'm like, "Oh well, I'm afraid I can't take this stuff." I said, "Then I'll." Um, and then she thought about it twice, and she's like, "Okay." And then she pulled out her wallet and took it. And then I said to her, if you're willing to take this, like, I'll actually tell my Bitcoiner friends to come to your fruit stand in Antiguo Cuscatlan. She's a very nice lady. She also sells flowers, which are amazing. And they'll come here. You will be their fruit stand and you'll get more business. And she's like, "Really?" It's like, "Absolutely. But you have to be willing to take it. Don't say that you prefer cash or debit or credit. Just like take, like it's like preferred." And she's like, "I will do that." And so those little moments are really important. And then you can see that, like, even if people don't want to take it at first, they have the ability, and sometimes it's just lack of education. And this is where something that's happening in the country that I'm very passionate about. And I was actually just awarded a first full node outside of El Salvador in Canada is Mi Primer Bitcoin, my first Bitcoin. Their educational curriculum is just amazing. I taught it once and I graduated one class here in Canada, and we're in line to teach it again. And people just love it because it's easy. It gives you the history of money. And when people come out of it, they understand Bitcoin. They they're not exposed to scams, and they're actually more resistant to scams because it's a non-partisan, it's very objective, and we just empower people with the tools to make their own decisions, right? And at some point, I said to them, like, after you've taken this course, which was developed in El Salvador, you decide if you want to play in a casino, with shit coins. And 100% of the people said, absolutely, we see the difference. We see the benefit of a decentralized network. And so that same curriculum is being taught from the ground up, not a government program, to a lot of children and youth in the country. Now, the Salvadoran government has actually seen how successful that is, and it is incorporating aspects of that curriculum being taught by Mi Primer Bitcoin as well as Bitcoin Beach into the financial literacy module of the educational system, which is great. I mean, and so you see things are moving, adoption is going great. But it's important to hear from Salvadorians tell the story, not from Salvadorans activists, which there's a lot of them who claim that they know Bitcoin and they will say negative things about it. But for the average person, it has had a very, very positive impact on their life, even if it's just indirectly, even if they're not transacting with it every day. They are benefiting from the secondary effects of a Bitcoinized economy.
Love it, Jaime. Yeah, I've had, anecdotally, I've had a few conversations with people that have left El Salvador. Their families are from there, and I always ask them, kind of, just for my own personal, like, wondering, curiosity. I'm like, what do you think about Bekele? They're like, I love it. I can't wait to go back. And when I first heard it, I was like, wow, that's incredible. Anyways, let's pivot this conversation to what we're seeing in Argentina. I think you were telling me before the show that there is maybe some very interesting parallels going on down there. Maybe there's things to be watching. Maybe we need to kind of hold our tongue and see how this plays out. So you wrote this article here on Bitcoin Magazine. It's titled Milei's Presidency Implications for Argentina, El Salvador, and Bitcoin Adoption. So what's your angle here, Jaime? What are you seeing, and what are your thoughts on this whole thing going on?
For sure. Well, I mean, this is something that Argentinians wanted overwhelmingly. Actually, the Milei mandate is quite strong, and although he doesn't have full support or an overwhelming support in the Senate and the Congress, Argentina has a bicameral structure for their assemblies. They have a lot of support. Here's where kind of things differ from El Salvador. When Bukele came in, he had a good win, but he didn't have any allies in Congress, and so he had to wait almost 2 years of constant opposition from Congress to actually pass laws for when he got his party elected, and they have a 3/4 majority. That 3/4 majority was essential in passing the Bitcoin law, because if you don't have that 3/4 majority, then Bitcoin doesn't become legal tender, and it's a different story about El Salvador. In Argentina, Milei has some support from his party, and he also has an ally party, but the Peronist party, the left wing, kind of like socialists, social democrats, they're still quite strong. And Milei didn't do this all on his own. He actually had to make some sort of, deals in coalition and alliances with Pro, which is a right-wing party. It was the party of Macri, the former president, before the Kirchner and Fernandez, the former president, and he was unable to do a lot of things, and he was kind of like marred with a little bit of corruption and just the regular stuff that happens in Latin America. My worry here is that the compromises that were struck in order to build this coalition to elect Milei, at some point he may have to pay back those favors. Whereas when we compare the situation in El Salvador, where Bukele did not have to compromise and actually absolutely promised nothing to any of the allies, he has not really deviated from his vision. And so then this is kind of where my cautiousness for Milei is like, well, like, what is the favors? What are the favors, right? And let's not forget that he was not elected as a Bitcoiner. He is pro, and he understands Bitcoin to a degree, but I don't think he fully grasps what this is. He's not Austrian economist, and from that sense, I think he understands the decentralization of money, the separation of state and money, and so there's a lot of good things around that. And so, my caution in my article is like, let's just let Milei kind of handle things, and acknowledge that he may have a tougher road ahead than Bukele, because he's had to make some compromises, and he may actually have to owe some favors. Whether that translates into public policy and economic policy, we still have to see what happens. It's still early. He got sworn in 10 days ago, 10 days into a mandate. We don't know. But And you know, I don't want to disrespect my hermanos argentinos, you know, because I obviously I'm gonna be in the same situation that I found myself before, where I felt I need to write about El Salvador, otherwise other people are gonna tell an inaccurate story. But I have done the research in Argentina as far as to, you know, just issue a cautionary tale. I know that my Argentinian uh, friends are very hopeful, and I wish them the very best. But the thing about it is that we need to be patient. We need to see what happens, and absolutely wish for everything. But you know, like absolutely the best for Argentina. One thing that does worry me is that Milei already made a trip down to the U.S. and some of the first folks that he met with are the entourage of Bill Clinton and some of the, you know, fiat maximalists we all have known and loved. Bill Clinton in particular, I have a particular soft spot in my heart for him because he was responsible for sending the MS-13 in Barrio 18, the 18th Street gang to El Salvador. And that's fine if you have to deport illegals, but at least let us know that they are criminals before they arrive to the country. Yeah, anyway, I'm digressing there, but that's who Millet met with. And so we'll see. I nothing but the best, and I hope that everything turns out for Argentina, and I hope they follow in the Bitcoin standard. But that's kind of where my thoughts are, and yeah, open it up
Well,
to you what you guys think about
well,
it.
love it, Jaime. No, I before I let Sophie jump in here, I totally agree. One thing's for sure, and I think, you know, on just a surface level, Malay's election to the Argentinian presidency just shows one thing's for sure, is that there is hope in South America, and they are trying and looking for new options and new ways of doing things. Now, you know, hopefully Argentina doesn't go down I would say more of a negative path, because I have a lot of friends that are Argentinians as well. And I wish them the best. It's such a beautiful country. They have so much going for them, but they have just been so economically stunted that it's just absolutely horrible how bad inflation has gotten, how bad the country has gotten, and the direction it was heading in. And like you said, you know, I think a lot of us Bitcoiners are very black pilled, you know, and any sense of statism just like terrifies us, and we're so quick to just sacrifice people. Whereas I really love the sober take that you're like, hey, let's give him some time. He's only been in there 10 days. I know there's been some very bad negative press coming out since he's been elected and since he's been inaugurated, and some of us Bitcoiners are like, oh man, no, like don't go down the dark side. This is terrifying. So I think only time will tell. And I mean, hey, you know, Bukele, I think a lot of people were saying the same thing about Bukele 10 days in. You're just like, yeah, he's another politician. And yet, you know what, close to 3 years down the line, it seemed like Bukele's really been a visionary and has completely turned the country around. So I think only time will tell. Anyway, Jaime, jump in, and then I'm going to let Sophie jump in.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%, and I think what one key thing to remember here with Argentina is that, like, you know, at the turn of the 20th century, they were like, you know, in the early 1900s, they were an economic power. The different European diasporas that left Europe, they would either go to the US or Argentina. Argentina is full of like potential, economic potential, lots of natural resources. The oppression, the economic oppression of Argentina has only benefited westernized countries because they're full of like precious metals. They're full of rare metals. They're wheat, cattle, like they I mean, you name it, wine, fruit, food, like there's tons of it, and it's a beautiful country. So many good friends that are from that haven't not had the privilege to go there, but like, you know, the Patagonia, the Pampas, you know, uh Mar de Plata, Buenos Aires, Tierra del Fuego, the beautiful areas that are tourist friendly. which were depressed by the economic instability of years. And so, I mean, good things must come to the Argentinians, but let's be frank about it. And it's like their economic oppression, their devaluation of their peso has only benefited the US, Britain, and Europe, because they can actually, if they devalue their money so much, they can actually get their amazing resources for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I love it. 100%. Okay. As the reigning Latina of Simply Bitcoin, what's your thoughts on all this stuff?
So I have a huge soft spot in my heart for Argentina. I've always been fascinated by the history of Argentina and their passion, their contribution to the culture, in both music and movies. And I mean, if you go and you see their architecture and you see their cities, it's stunning. So with respect to Javier Milei, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not looking great meeting with the Clintons. And I also heard he had signed with the Paris Climate Agreement, and he also met up with Zelensky and so like he's doing some shady globalist moves there. But you know, I had never considered the angle that maybe he was paying back some debts politically. And the truth is that he didn't stand a chance to win in the beginning. And I think it's a miracle actually that a libertarian won in Argentina. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that that is what's happening right now. But at the same time, you have to see, you know, how far are those debts going to go? How far do those payments go? And is he actually going to do the things that he promised? We already saw that he came out with a law about protesters. Like he's really cracking down and being a little bit, I mean, some would say radical, but then again, people had the same type of criticism for Bukele when he became president and when he took all of these gang members off of the streets, you know. And for better or for worse, people say that, you know, they deserved a trial, whatever, like it's made the country better. So I think we just need to wait. We need to see what is going on. We need to give them, you know, obviously more than 10 days. Usually the metric, at least here in the United States, it's 100 days. So let's just wait and see. I think it's also important that Bitcoiners make themselves like a part of the process. I think he's open to it. And try to explain to him like the process of adopting Bitcoin in Argentina. I think that once they fix the base layer of society, other things will just fall into place. Because as Jaime was mentioning, they are a very not just culturally rich city, but they have a lot of cattle, wines, beautiful land, beautiful architecture, tourism. And the only one that the inflation of their currency has benefited is Great Britain and the United States. So if they opt out and take the same approach, radical as it may be, as El Salvador, I think that everything will be fine. So we just got to be patient and give it more than 10 days.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jaime, last message to the audience. What's the last thoughts you want to leave with people before we roll this one out? First and foremost, though, really appreciate you coming on. Loved the perspective, but give a last two sats for the audience out there. What do you want people to leave on top of mind here tonight?
Yeah, for sure. So listen up. I mean, you know, I'm always pro El Salvador. It's a beautiful country. If you get a chance to go out there and visit it, just, you know, be part of it. It's safe. It's safe now. Um, and go and support what's going on, but also like don't do like the Bitcoiner thing the whole time. Like, of course, you got to go and visit Chimbera at El Sonte Bitcoin Beach and Mike Peterson, run into Max and Stacy. but like go other places. Like I know we have some friends over in Berlin, which is actually a Salvadoran city, um, near like where the geothermal plant is, and they're doing their own circular economy there. But there's other places too where like you guys can like just hang out, meet people, and try to orange pill them, because even though like they may know about Bitcoin, they may not have ever seen like or transacted with it. And so that's how it's going to happen. But go there, enjoy the country. It's amazing, beautiful. I also want to give a quick shout out, because I do live in Canada when I'm not in El Salvador. In this past weekend, I was out with my friends in Calgary. They had their very first stab at a circular economy there. Ben Perrin, also known as BTC Sessions, organized a Saturday market, and it was amazing. We had such a great time. And so always support your local Bitcoin efforts as well. Yeah, go to El Salvador, go to other places, and do the Bitcoin holidays. But like, get involved in your local meetup and do what you can. Like create content, help your friends move their ledger over to Cold Card or Compass, or wherever, but that's Bitcoin only and safer. That's your little contribution, and yeah, that's kind of my parting words. And thanks, Sophie. Thanks, Opti. And yeah, like we don't need Nico here. Like we got Sophie. Come on.
Damn.
We got the better half
Shots
here,
fired.
so.
Appreciate it, Jaime. Yeah, someone in the chat said, "Man, Nico's looking so hot after going into the halving."
Oh man.
All right, well, guys, go check out Jaime on Twitter, Jaime W Garcia, and then of course go check out his articles on Bitcoin Magazine. He's got a plethora of writings. I'm sure more are coming. Really appreciate you coming on today's show, Jaime. Let's bring you back on in a couple of months, and you can give us an update on everything you're seeing. Love having you on, bro, and appreciate you constantly hitting my DMs with stuff. It keeps us on our toes. It makes sure that we're spreading the signal correctly. Because guys, we do our best here, but we are really relying on you guys out there on the ground telling us what's going on. We can only really see what's happening from our vantage point. Of course, we're looking at the world through a Bitcoin lens. And one thing's for sure, Bitcoin is winning. It is taking over. And this is all good for Bitcoin. Anyway, Sophie, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you fitting in. Sophie will be on the show a lot more. You guys seem to like Sophie as a reoccurring guest, so she's coming on more. You guys like her hot, spicy Latina takes on everything. She's even more toxic than Nico and I are. So this is she's the voice of the plebs now. All right, Soph, really appreciate it. You can log off. I know you're incubating another human, and this is probably a long day for you. So thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Yo, I'm dying.
All right, Jaime, thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it. Go check out him again on Twitter, Jaime W Garcia. Really appreciate you coming on today, bro. Means everything. We will keep in contact. Come on soon. Till next time, brother.
Cheers, man.
All right, guys, you already know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Comment. We are your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. We cover news, memes, culture. The meme review will come back on Friday, but as you can see, it's already an hour and a half. So forgive me, guys. The show's going longer. We're trying to pack in more sauce for you guys in our daily live show. So just keep sending me memes. Friday show, I already got some of the memes, guys. It's going to be a lit meme review. Anyways, have a good rest of your day. It is the holidays. It is the Christmas, almost going into the Christmas. Go hang out with your friends, eat some good food, get outside, all that good stuff. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Nico will be back. We will be doing this till the end of time. All right, guys. Peace out. This is your boy Opti. Until next time, we are Simply Bitcoin. And this was the Simply Bitcoin live show. Peace out, guys.